Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to be so, oh my gosh. It's a topic which is so important to me that, I lose my words. I'm very pleased and I'm very impressed by the number of people in the room. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to be with us to understand and listen to major key players in the industry fighting against counterfeiting. I just would like to make a short introduction on that specific topic, which is critical for the future of the luxury industry. We have seen specifically, during the COVID phase, with the rise of the e-commerce, a tremendous increase as well of the counterfeit industry. This problem is even more important today because 40% of the counterfeit products are sold online. The latest OECD report indicates the fact that the counterfeit product industry is amounted to $5.3 billion of losses to the real watchmaking industry. So the impact on the industry is tremendous and is not only important in terms of business, but also the impact is huge in terms of environment and social. Data show that 30% of consumers accidentally bought a fake product online over the last 5 years. Knowing that the younger generation consumer will make up 70% of the luxury market by 2025, and knowing that they are digital native, imagining the potential of development of the counterfeit industry. Just a quick number. Do you have any idea about the monthly research made online for counterfeit products, and specifically watches? In the latest reports, Rolex has been searched more than 23,300 times on a monthly basis on a global scale. Patek Philippe, 2,000 times. So we see a tremendous demand, and also the fact that people are fooled by the counterfeit industry because we have to deliver them the right solution to make sure that they are able to distinguish authentic product and fake one. So I'm very pleased to, welcome on stage amazing people that are really, fighting, developing great solution, and having the vision to bring a better customer experience in order to make sure that no one is fooled in buying, counterfeit product. So it's now urgent to empower the industry and solve this massive issue for the market. So let me welcome on stage. Can you change the slide? Thanks. Logan Baker, who is editor at Hodinkee. Thanks, Logan. Please have a seat. Tirath KAMDAR, General Manager Luxury at eBay. And the founding partner of this amazing event. MANJOS, Chief Trading Officer at Watchbox. As well, main sponsor of the event. MORISSEAU, Director of Corporate Communication at GIA. Alexandre Mille of Mille, CEO. And Vincent PERRIARD, co-founder of Origyn Foundation. And also sponsor of the Reluxury Talks. Gentlemen, we're missing some women here. The floor is yours.
Well, hello. It's really wonderful to see such a full house, full of familiar faces, and we've got an all-star group of panelists up here today. My name is Logan Baker. I am a watch industry specialist. I'm a writer. I'm the brand editor for Hodinkee. One of the things, if you know Hodinkee, we're a leading media company and online retailer, and one of the things that we talk about in the office a lot is what can we do every day to make the world of watches a better place. And one of the things that we think about a lot is the three pillars of content, commerce, and community. And when I see everyone in this room and everyone on stage, it feels like we're all kind of gathered for those three reasons. And this event to me is really about kind of the long-lasting endurance of hard luxury goods and the opposite of kind of everything that we love about luxury and watchmaking and gyms and is counterfeit products. Counterfeit goods are poorly made. They're made in areas, impoverished countries with poor ethics, and it's really kind of the luxury business's #1 enemy. And so I'm really glad to be able to speak about that topic today with a group of panelists that have come from all over the world. And yeah, so let's dig into it. I'd love to open the floor and just kind of ask, over the last 3 years, we've seen the watch market and luxury in general kind of go through a big surge. And I'm curious how each of you have seen kind of the market for counterfeit goods evolve in that period as well.
Okay, no, I'll start from an eBay perspective, I guess.
Go for it.
Right. Look, I think we've definitely seen significant growth, especially as pre-owned is growing faster than new, right? That's a major trend. We know that younger generation is flocking online. We saw in the last 12 months, about 80% of Gen Zers are buying pre-owned versus new. And so that opens the door for more counterfeits to start entering the market, right? Especially in a place like eBay, where we're a global marketplace, 135 million active buyers globally, millions of sellers across the world. We said, okay, we have to do something about this as well. And so I think, as Stephanie noted, a lot of innovation solutions have to come out in order to really stop counterfeiting, or ensuring that we're doing our level best and taking a responsibility to ensure a counterfeit product does not end up in the hands of the end consumer. And one of the mission that we're on, and I believe all of us are on together, and it takes the whole industry, is a mission of transparency and trust, right? And as you noted, as you kicked off the speech, and that is really, really critical. And at eBay, we took strides to launch what we call authenticity guarantee. So like every watch goes through one of our partners called Stolen Company, very reputable, been in the watch industry as watch experts on staff with a combined hundreds of years of experience. We not only have that in the US, but in the UK and Germany. We did the same thing in handbags, and most recently, we shared a similar mission with the Gemological Institute of America, where we're on a mission of transparency and trust. They're on a mission of transparency and trust. We're like, we need to do that in the jewelry market as well. And as you know, the jewelry market and jewelry pieces are so easy to counterfeit, right? You're just looking at metals and stones. And so being able to have a great collaborator in GIA and be able to be on a joint mission to really solve transparency and bring authentic goods to the market has been one of our missions. So that's what we're starting to see, and I think we have to invest in major innovation solutions now to create a better future around this.
I think that's a great point, and we work very closely with eBay and use them a lot, and I think they've been an innovator as far as platforms go. And from a platform standpoint, they are taking that risk off the table for the consumer, which is huge. And I think also very important. Now, from a Watchbox perspective, I'm the head of trading for Watchbox, and we see tons of watches come in. We are trying to stop it at the front end. We can identify the majority of them that get offered to us at the beginning before it ever makes it to our office. So someone's going to deal with a client advisor, not just an automated system. So our process has become we're high tech, but it's high touch. You're going to deal with a human being. We're going to try to find out who you are. We want to know the client. It's all about the customer journey and the customer experience, both on when they're selling to us and when we're selling. Because we're investing our own money. We're unlike platforms where they're just letting sellers post. We are financially invested in every piece that's on our website. So we have to be sure. And if there's ever a doubt, we involve the brands. We work closely with the stolen people as well, because that's a big part of it. We actually go through that. But it's super important for us to make sure that experience, both on the buying side and the selling side, is personal. And we have to have a connection with the clientele. They need to be comfortable with what they're buying. They need to know who they're buying it for. And I think a lot of the younger generation think everybody online is equal, and obviously it's not. eBay is giving an authenticity guarantee. We're standing behind every product. We have 2 years for servicing, but forever as far as authenticity goes. We have to be, and everybody needs to raise that standard, and unfortunately not every platform has done that yet. Mm-hmm.
Stephen, I'd love to hear from you about kind of the authentication process for gyms. I mean, coming from my background, being very watch-focused, you know, I have an understanding of how that might work, but for gyms, I'm really curious, what goes into it? What does the GIA recommend consumers do when it comes to authenticating gyms and jewelry?
Sure. So, and let me talk a little bit about loose gemstones, because that's sort of GIA's core business. Then I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing with eBay, which is really, really very mission-driven for us and really quite fantastic. So, commercial. If you're going to buy a piece of gemstone jewelry, the best way to protect yourself is make sure the gemstones come with a report from GIA. That way you will be absolutely sure, and this is definitely in my marketing voice, but I'll try and tone that down. That way you can be sure that you're getting what was represented to you. And that is what drives our mission. You know, we actually don't use the word counterfeit for anything that we deal with, because you can buy a natural grown diamond. You can buy a natural diamond that's been treated to enhance its appearance. You can buy a laboratory-grown diamond, and all of those are diamonds, according to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. Or you can buy what we call a simulant, which was a horrible word, but it's something that simulates the look of a diamond. We don't call it a fake, but that would be a cubic zirconia, a moissanite, or something, all of which are fabulous, as long as when you buy it, you know what it is. And that is really our mission, to ensure the public's trust in gems and jewelry by making sure that they have that trust in their transaction. Now, a little bit to our collaboration with eBay, the simplest thing for me to say would just say what Tirath said, because he pretty much covered it. But this is really interesting for us because we are engaged in terms of a mission in exactly the same thing eBay is. We want to make sure there's transparency and consumers can trust their transactions. So we're bringing that 90 years of experience we have in gemology, which is the science of gems, but in examining high-value items, although we never discuss value at GIA being an independent not-for-profit. Examining those items to make sure that consumers get what they're expecting.
Oh, thank you so much. Vincent, from your perspective, Origyn is a fairly new face in the process of authentication. It uses some very high-tech processes, NFTs. I'd love to hear about what your business model can offer to solve some of the problems that we've discussed so far regarding counterfeit goods.
Well, I love the question, because I was just about to react on everything that we just heard. Everything is right, you know, and you know, when you authenticate a watch or you authenticate a diamond on spot, you need the human. If it's the second hand, you need someone that can tell you this is the right, that's the right watch, or that's an authentic watch, or nothing has been moved from the movement perspective, and you know, everything is right. The problem is that how can you empower the consumer that when this has been said once, when the consumer will have to either like give it to someone, sell it to someone else on another platform, how can you make sure that the information is still okay? Well, you can have a piece of paper, you know, like GIA will have a piece of paper that goes with the diamond, or the certificate from Watchbox, from eBay, that says, yeah, that's the right watch. As soon as the transaction is done once, how can you make sure that the product itself is really authentic? And it's not just a plastic card with a QR code or any type of thing. Like, you know, for 400 or 500 years, we have put what we call in English a proxy, a piece of paper, a watch, and a box. You know, it started in the 16th century, and it has been always the same. 2022, we go on Mars, but we still sell a product, a piece of paper or a plastic card that sometimes goes online and on chain. But if you put the wrong information on chain, what is the benefit of having a wrong information on chain? We have a business right now of counterfeiting cards with fake QR code on plastic watch like this every week in some places with some brands. So that's the issue. What we try to resolve is connecting the product with a certificate. Once for good, end of story, and as people say, game over. So when we can prove this, But by the way, you can go there because we can prove it now. We link the product. Well, Mike,
he could do it.
you can do it. Thank you.
We've been
well,
big
you can do it
supporters.
yourself, by the way, because it's really like like a very simple solution to use. So when you use the biometry of the object, a diamond tomorrow, today a watch, after tomorrow it's going to be a piece of bag, an Hermes bag. Game over. You empower the consumer at any moment to take a telephone, an iPhone, any phone. You smash the picture of you take the picture of the object, and it tells you if the object is right. More than that, it tells you that this watch has been released on October 18, 2018, at 5 o'clock by this famous watchmaker, and you can embed any information. So that's the ultimate goal. We have been all striving for having a solution going against counterfeiting, and everybody, all the groups, all the luxury groups know that the solution comes from biometry, from the image taken, because it's not disrupting, it's easy to implement, it's all about AI, it's all about intelligence and algorithm. So this is what we try to do at Origyn.
I have a quick follow-up question there. I mean, I think we can all agree that authentication increases a watch's valuation, its resale value. I mean, box and papers being the most well-known, prominent example of that. But it also requires a degree of transparency from watch brands to agree to offer an NFT or a digital blockchain certificate with a watch. We all know that big corporations aren't always super willing to be transparent. So I guess I'm curious, have you encountered any issues working with watch brands so far?
Great question. Thank you. Then I can go. Okay. Now, obviously, that's a great question because it's a failure that this is my position at the beginning of Origyn with the team. I was the one that I was totally convinced until I meet my friends here. I was so convinced that we needed to be brand-centric. In other words, to be living, we would need the father and the mother of the product to say, great, let's do the certificate upstream at the birth or the assembly of the watch. And that's ultimately what we want to do, of course. But what we understood also that we couldn't be brand-centric, and that we have like tons of examples where you cannot be brand-centric, you need to be consumer-centric. Guess what? 2018, change of paradigm. We sell more products, at the CPO level, certified pre-owned, I mean like a second-hand market, than in the first market. So what we decided at Origyn to do, and we have our friends here for that, we said, okay, let's go where there is more business, more transaction and business in the second-hand market with watches. And that's typically eBay or Watchbox and other players, okay? Where their mission is not to create or manufacture the most beautiful watch ever, but their mission is to make business and sell and trade. It's a totally different, especially when you go with very, very old school watch brand, like you name it, the Rolex, the Patek, the Audemars. It's when you come with technology, man, it's take time. It's really taking time. And we've seen that in the last 20, 30 years already. It takes time. So what we have decided to do, thanks again to some of the partners, we go faster by going to the second-hand market, by introducing the technology at the second-hand, but not only at what we call CPO or marketplace business, but we also see retailers, like basic, small retailers, willing to do their certification at that level without waiting for the brand to do it, because they want to trace and be in touch and do a second sale with that watch and trace the journey of that watch. And we see that in Asia, we see that in America, we see that everywhere. Why? Because brands are less and less working with independent retailers. Chains, they see brands going down, down, down. So Panerai out, Audemars Piguet is out, Richard Mille is completely independent. So guess what? The retailers, they need to reinvent new revenue streams. And the revenue streams, it's instead of selling the watch once, sell it twice. That's it. And it's natural. We're not forcing anything. It's already happening. Mm-hmm.
And it's a better consumer experience at the end of the day because they're getting a product that they can be confident is real and authentic. Alex, I think you have a really interesting, unique perspective on the panel. Coming from the brand side, I would be really interested to hear what Richard Mille's corporate kind of relationship is with identifying super clones or potentially fake Richard Mille watches on the secondary market? How do you support your clients when they want to buy a watch and they're not sure if it's real or not?
So what we do, I mean, we are lucky enough that we don't have that many clients. Our clients are, I mean, it's a lot of clients, but it's not that many. So from our point of view, which is very much bound to the DNA of the brand, it's the one-to-one contact with the client. So when that person is already a client, and we can directly discuss with him and have that discussion with him, and they know that every time they will be meeting people that will be able to tell them a fake from a real watch. Now, what we saw the last 3 years, because that was your very first question, is that with COVID, he gave a stop to the authority everywhere being able to strike the counterfeit factory. While the counterfeit factory, they had time to do even more. So yeah, we see more and more counterfeit watches. I would say that we are also lucky enough that our products are very particular. And when you're looking to buy a fake Richard Mille, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, you will know it's a fake Richard Mille. If you don't have the education, and that I think it's another point, if you don't have the education, yes, you can get fooled by a counterfeit RM. But it comes down to, we had a meeting today with my team, and it comes down to being every time even more educational about the particularity of our watches, and make sure that more and more people get access to that information, and make sure that we don't leave people on the side, and that way they will know what is a real watch from a fake watch.
You mentioned a very good point. I mean, Richard Mille watches are very rare. The production is highly limited. What would your recommendation be for a potential buyer that wants to buy a Richard Mille watch? Where should they be looking? Is there a certified pre-owned kind of?
There is. So yeah, we realized that. I think it was really our Japanese distributor who had that idea in 2015 to give that service, and we as a brand see that more as a service than a business, a real business. To give that service to the client, because from the beginning of the brand, what we were doing is just killing a lot of our references to bring new ones. We can only produce that many watches a year. So if you want to come with novelty, and we want to come with novelty because it's in our DNA to have creativity and do crazy things, you have to kill references. And those references, some collectors, really wanted those pieces. And we wanted to create a kind of a haven when they can come and they know that their peace of mind will be total, and they will be able to buy that piece knowing that it's been checked by Richard Mille watchmakers, that we as the brand engage on our responsibility saying that this watch is a real one, and if it was out of a warranty, we give them a 2-year extra warranty on that watch. And all that created a very interesting circle with people selling back their pieces to us to be able to buy new ones, selling other brand, and to buy Richard Mille. And our strategy from the beginning is that we always loved to have our distributor being able to express their identity. So we didn't want it to have like one Richard Mille certified pre-owned system, and it will be this and nothing else. So we have 4 main markets. Each market have their own identity, which way, very particular way to do their business. Some will mix with other brands, some will mix with a piece of art, some will mix with jewelry, some will only do Richard Mille pieces, and that's what we like. That way we can feel and we can be closer to what the client demand, instead of having one way of doing things and the client have to deal with that.
No, thank you. That's a really well thought out answer. Mike, Tirath, I'd like to circle back to you. You spoke a little bit already about part of the authentication process that both of your companies go through to make sure that the watches you're listing are are real. I'd love to hear about what happens once you identify a counterfeit watch. Does it go back to the person that was trying to sell it? Does it, go in the dumpster?
I can certainly speak to that. I mean, again, most of them get stopped before they even make it to our house. So those are just turned away, and we'll express, our concerns about the product. You also have two different types of what we call counterfeit. We have true counterfeit, and then we have aftermarket. So we get a lot of goods that have been altered, and we will not touch anything that's not 100% factory, authenticated originally the way it was born. So outside of changing the strap, we're not going to tolerate any additional diamonds, dial changes, any of that stuff. We stop that at the front gate as well. And then if something does make it through, which is maybe 1 or 2 watches a month will come through that didn't get identified properly at pictures, they do get returned because I don't have the authority to confiscate goods. I'm just a trader.
Yep.
But we will let the client know and we will identify it. The only time we run into it, and we run it beforehand, typically is on stolen goods. We do share that information with everybody we can. We think that's important. Right. But I think a lot of this is the industry is now finally starting to work together. Like I know I started at Watchbox 5 years ago coming from a retail background, and most manufacturers were kind of like, we don't want to work with Watchbox, we don't know what exactly is going on. And now we've got very close relationships with a number of brands where if we have a question about something, we'll just communicate with the brand directly. They're supportive. If we're selling something like a Richard Mille, which we love to do, they're going to be serviced by Richard Mille. I mean, we're not going to sell a watch of this caliber without it being serviced at the factory because that's what a client expects. And we specialize kind of in that 50,000 and up range where it's not a mass produced. We're not trying to sell it for the cheapest price. We're not just trying to push it out as fast as possible. We're all about raising the standard of pre-owned. And we want the pre-owned that's offered on our website to be the higher standard. And if we can't get it to that standard, it's not going to make it to the site.
Right. Just to add to that, I think what we're doing, especially with now our authentication guarantee process in handbags, in watches, and in jewelry, when we do catch a counterfeit, what we are doing is we're letting the seller know that this has not passed our authentication process, and we're letting the buyer know the same thing. Now, at the same time, we're collecting data. Unique data that's allowing us to know what's going on in the market, who the seller was, where, and how to make the marketplace more transparent as we grow over time. And at the same time, this buyer is left without a potential watch, but we have our customer service team, and you guys have a great expert customer service team as well. We want to help them go find something new. Counterfeit could also happen when somebody's trying to return an item, right? So we're also seeing a lot of fraud that tends to happen in the market where, well, you bought a Rolex and here's a fake Rolex coming right back. No, we're intermediating all returns. So we're now catching that as well and giving full seller protection because it is all about trust and protections on both ends. And that's really important. And it's interesting what Vincent said earlier too. When an item initially goes through, it gets traded, and it's coming back. There's a huge cycle, right? And I do agree. I think, and we at eBay think about what is the future of biometrics and minting or fingerprinting. There's a lot of these technologies out there, and how do you kind of What we do is we allow the person to easily, with one click, resell that item right back. So it's going right back through the authentication guarantee program. Now, I believe there's a world where how could brands start working through this process and start getting more data in what's really happening in their secondary market, who their consumers are, where are these counterfeits existing. And I think when big platforms like eBay and brands can work together, I think in the long term, that's how we're really going to create the ultimate transparent markets out there in the world.
If you don't mind, I'll stay with you guys for another moment. I feel like a lot of consumers, when they think of buying something used online, their mind goes back to the early days of the internet, the wild, wild west. How do you counteract that perception and, do that consumer education?
First of all, I want a huge compliment to eBay and their team for what they created because they were really groundbreaking in this. There was some resistance even from us from the early days, we're going to have to ship it somewhere else and this. And then as the trust built up, it's really created a great environment. So it's a great answer. It's a third-party guarantee. We love the transparency and having that ability, and especially on the high-volume, lower-end pieces, it's fantastic. On the higher-end pieces, we are, again, I'm going to say high touch. We want to know that client. We're going to know who they are. They're going to know who we are. Very little of our business is click and buy. majority of it, if lead comes in, that contact is going to go personal. They're going to try to develop a relationship. We want to know who the client is. We want to know what's in their collection. We want to know why they're interested in this watch. We want to create value and know that we're going to be there. And if they want to come see it, they can visit one of our offices. We're opening now. We're just opened in Switzerland earlier this year. We're about to open in New York, Miami, and LA with pods where you can come and visit and physically see the piece. Or you can just do it all online, whatever you're comfortable with. But we've gotten to the scale where people know who we are. They know we're in 10 different offices now, soon to be expanding. And then we have the ability to physically come see the piece if you're comfortable. And if it's been through the manufacturer and we're transparent about the service that's done to it. And everything is documented. And I think one of the things that some of the other platforms have done just the opposite is you go on one of the biggest watch platforms and they're trying to hide who the seller is. Yeah. It's terrible. There's no transparency there. People want to be confident in who they're buying from. Right. And a platform that allows anything to get posted and doesn't let you know who you're transacting with, I don't think it's healthy for the industry. Yeah. I think the brands need to be as transparent as possible. And I think all the platforms really need to communicate the quality of the goods you're getting, what the expectation is, and that who you're dealing with and that they're going to be there for a while. You know, so many people have popped into this business over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think with the current market conditions, some of them may not be here for the next 2 or 3 years. But dealing with somebody who's, you know, established, credible, right. You know is going to be there, believe me, if there's ever an issue. I mean, we did have an issue with an authenticity. We had a warranty instruction book that was missing, and eBay stopped it right away. Said it didn't say that was missing this book, and we, you know, made an apology. But they're that precise on it, and it's so healthy for the market.
No, and just to add to that, I think we're speaking about counterfeits and authenticity, but to exactly Mike's point, it's not. So people, even if it's a real item, they want to make sure if the thing said that it came with the box, we want the box. The condition is important too, right? What if it's not in the same condition? There's scratches all over. That's important. And to answer your question, look, I think the first place everyone goes, especially the next generation, to go shopping is their mobile phone, right? That is where it is. We're seeing that at eBay in a significant, strong way. And so you have to have, you may not click and buy immediately, but offering that expert customer service is important. Knowing who the seller is, telling those stories, exactly to Mike's point, is very, very critical. And it's really all about your mobile phone as the first online shop you go. You may end up offline, but that is where people usually go to find their education. And so we're making other strides there too, right? We've launched recently live shopping. So we're now doing live stream videos, being able to show off seller stories, show off products real life, show off how it's being authenticated. So we're really excited. We actually have one with Watchbox coming up and later this quarter. We had a great handbag one with one of our biggest handbag sellers. And these are other ways of really, really sharing the stories around authenticity in one place.
Absolutely. And sticking with the topic of consumer education for a moment, I'd like to open up this next question to everyone. And from my perspective as a member of the media, what can watch media, what can general luxury media be doing to better educate consumers from your perspective?
I would say we will have, I mean, it's not only media, it's everybody. We'll have to start with the basic. And I think we had that discussion yesterday with Jake Foster. I would say the issue is that the watch community sometimes can be a little bit close-minded to newcomers, and like every specialized community, I will say. But we think we should welcome everyone that is coming, whatever the reason they are coming to in the community. There's passion here, and we should be able to help them with their passion. And I think the basic, like, I don't know if you looked on YouTube recently, try to find a video explaining to you nicely done how a watch works. Just that simple. How does a mechanical watch work? There's none. And it's the very basic, is how can you expect them to understand everything that come after, which is materials, function, complication, if they cannot understand just the basic. And we should be able to be a little bit more open-minded and welcoming, because I was in that situation. I was in the situation that I knew nothing about watches, and I got hooked. And I needed to know more. I was lucky enough to be at the factory and being able to talk directly with the people, so it's obviously it's easier. But we need to think about all of these people that we're talking about, that young generation that is mainly informing themselves online. There's no really, everything is very specialized. Everything is very specialized for them, and sometimes a little bit hard to start with. So I think just go with if we could go with the basic, that would be something, and then we can grow and educate people on every aspect. Just obviously the technical aspect, but then also counterfeit watches, how to spot them, like all of these things. And naturally, it will be very beneficial, I think, for all of us, but mainly for the media also, because you will have a new audience coming to visit.
Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
I'll just very quickly. I think actually the consumer media does a very, very good job of letting consumers know the importance of having a GIA report. And forgive me for keep coming back to that. What we usually say is a report from a reputable laboratory like GIA. There are others. Some of them are very good. The others I'm not going to talk about. But for instance, if you read the announcements or the catalog about any major auction, the majority of the loose stones, I would say almost all the loose stones, certainly all the diamonds and fancy colored diamonds, and the majority of the gemstone pieces, the catalogs will mention that it comes with a GIA report. And that sort of thing reinforces to consumers that here is something that the auction houses are doing that's happening in high jewelry, but consumers have access to that same certainty all the way down to 30 points for diamonds.
Wow. Well, I want to make sure we have some time for audience Q&A, but I'd like to squeeze one more question in based on about some predictions. Where the watch market and luxury as a whole has evolved so much, so rapidly in a very short amount of time, and I mean, even today we've covered so much ground here. I guess, where do you see the marketplace for these counterfeit luxury goods kind of changing or evolving in the next few years? Are we eradicating it completely in 5 years? Well, where is it going to counteract the steps that the industry is taking?
Well, let me challenge this because I see their reaction. I'm going to be extremely humble, and please note, you record, because it's nothing to do with Origyn, okay? So I'm just trying to, as a watch guy, because I've been in this industry for 25 years, I can tell you one thing. And Mike was just there, just like 25 minutes ago. We can tell you two things. Well, first, the big vision. The big vision, imagine a world where two girls, one girl comes with a Louis Vuitton bag, and the other girl thinks that maybe it's a fake, it's maybe a real bag, and the girl next door, she takes a picture of the bag, and she automatically, after 1 second, see that it's a fake watch, fake bag. Do you think the next day the girl will come with the bag again? No, because she don't want to be a loser. The idea of being trapped, you don't do it. So the second thing is that
Mean Girls is the solution to counterfeit luxury.
Now, what I can tell you is that the solution, and it's not, again, Origyn or not Origyn, biometry is the game over thing of the counterfeiting. Why? I've been talking to super high watchmaker, Audemars Piguet, great example. The guy said to me, Vincent, I love technologies, but come on. I've been in this business for 35. You give me this watch, I take this watch. I can just by the weight, I know if this watch is fake or if it's real. I've been doing this forever. It will never change. And then I showed him the number of points that we take in high resolution, by the micron into the structure. Even a kid understands that. When you give a microscope to a kid, you put a little piece of tissue, of steel, of glass, of plastic. When you go inside the material, you see it's a world of difference. We take picture of this, and when you match it in a second time, you know if this watch has been already recorded or not. What can you say? Technology is coming and will change. So the day where you say, well, we have to decide if this one, or we have to analyze if the watch is authentic or not, it won't happen because we just take a picture and we see if it's in the data or if it's not in the data, and it takes a second. Nobody question anymore the algorithm of Shazam. When you listen to music, you push, bing, you have the sound. That's it. And there is no more question. It will happen in the biometry of the object. That's for sure, and we try to prove it here.
Yeah. But the question becomes is how long it takes, honestly, because the technology will get there. It's how quickly
how quickly the industry will adopt it.
Yeah.
And how quickly it'll expand through.
That is
Because it
correct.
is the solution on certainly on
That is
the
correct.
modern and how quickly it evolves.
Well,
you know we're big supporters. We want it to work. The faster it comes out, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be in the vintage. There'll still be challenges, but there's less and less of that. So in the modern stuff, I completely agree. We just got to get it to market faster than ever.
No, I agree
Because
with
it helps
you.
all of us.
Totally agree. And us being like a technology company in Silicon Valley as our core, we totally believe in the future of AI and computer vision. Right? It's an area we're aggressively looking into. We have a team in-house, smart engineering team looking into it. Completely believe in what Vincent's saying. And as the technology evolves and advances, being able to do this across all types of goods, even outside of luxury goods, I think that's where the market will shape and hopefully we'll clean up counterfeits one day.
But what about the people looking for the fake watches?
Yeah, you'll still have
because
that
we,
market.
we
There
started
still is
with
a market
that.
for
We
it,
started
yeah.
with that. Those one
You're
cannot.
absolutely right,
Yeah, agree.
but that's really like a philosophical question almost because that day, imagine I date a girl. The girl, she look at my watch and my watch is fake. She take a picture of the watch and it's a fake of the Marquis. So she will leave. So I don't do it again.
There's a recurring theme
I love
here.
this.
I love it.
Mean girls is going to
Social
solve our
pressure.
problem, yes.
Be your authentic self.
Never get late.
I think that's a great.
Great way to close.
I'm pretty sure your
I
mic
think
was
it's
off.
gonna, to your point, what you were trying to get to, Alexandre, I think it starts with the consumer. There are consumers that will still want to go to like Chinatown in New York, right? And you see all the fake stuff on the street and they'll still buy it, right? But to your point, the people who really want the real stuff, we need to give them a very easy, seamless way of getting that, right?
Well, I think that's a great place to close things for now, but I'd love to open the floor up to the audience. I think we have time for 2 or 3 questions.
Hi, I have a question for Vincent. I'll be the devil's advocate. There's always one. So your system works with biometry. What happens with the mechanism inside? We all know that a value, especially with watches like Richard Mille, the value is in the mechanism inside. We take a picture. We know it's a Rolex or whatever. And then when you open the watch, it's fake. It comes from China.
Let me tease you. Let me tease you. Shit, I didn't think about it.
No, I'm sure you have.
No, but the answer, there is no secret. There is no secret about that. Well, I'm teasing you.
No, but
Okay, no, there is no secret because we use microstructure traceability, so we take high resolution of the material, so we can show you, we have many examples of
I
this.
look forward to it.
Absolutely, and the second thing we use is geometry. And by using the word geometry, you should know or should understand that we know if something has been changed and moved out of the movement. In theory, to your points, we could take every parts, components of the watch movements and mint it, so create a digital certificate for every part. But that doesn't make sense in terms of supply chains and cost. What we do, we make sure that the geometry has not been changed and moved by different elements but not only the screws, by the way, because everybody thinks about the screws. It's not only the screws because we can do it without the screws, of course, because we can do Rolex and other things. So we can guarantee that the watch has been not touched inside, outside, but that's true also if you want to go to the next question, the next level. It means that if someone wants to have a service or change the dial of the watch, she or will have to go back, which is, by the way, something that every brand wants to have. She or he will have to go back to the Audemars Piguet, Richard Mille Center, whatever, where there is another box where they can, when they have changed something or changed something in the movement or the dial, they will have to just to push one button and just update the NFT, update the certification. But which is something that everybody wants because you want to be in the ecosystem of the customer relationship.
Thanks. I was sure you had the answer.
Thank you very much. I had one question. With the change in legislations and the fact that all the product will have digital passports, and the fact that we've got now technology that enable watchmaker productions to use, for example, sarin to map the diamonds and to have unique fingerprints even for many parts of the watch, don't you think that we might have 2 things? First, the second-hand market that will go more within the boundary of the brands because it's booming so fast, and it's such a great opportunity that at some point it might shift back to the watches, and that the ownership will be better managed with the digital passport by the brands than rather by the third parties.
I mean, I'll jump on that for sure. I mean, the digitalization of the warranties is a wonderful thing, and the brands have a great opportunity to track that, but the consumers have to be willing to only go back to the brand. So once it moves through the market, and it's one of the things we discussed, is transferring the piece and selling it there. I think a lot of the brands, certainly 3 or 4 years ago, talked about, we're going to get into certified pre-owned, we're going to get into pre-owned game. Not a lot of them have done it successfully because it's a lot more complicated, you know, from a business standpoint, from dealing with the consumer, trading something, selling it back, doing all those kind of things. So I think you're still going to see the pre-owned market be separated, but I think the technology can solve for a lot of the issues and give more confidence to the consumer. We're always concerned about that consumer journey and their comfort and confidence because that supports the market. If they have great confidence, they're willing to pay a stronger price, and that's where the market gets set, and it's healthy for the brands, and it's healthy for pre-owned dealers like us.
No, just to add to that, I think the technologies such as the one Vincent and his team are developing, or technologies around traceability, while digital passports can include things like NFTs, areas that we're aggressively looking into. We believe that is really going to be the great part of traceability in the secondary market. And then technologies such as the one he's developing really drive the authentication. At the same time, how do you really go from that primary to the secondary market and start connecting the dots? And I think this is where markets in the secondary market need to start working with the brands directly, and hopefully together we're controlling that end-to-end, and you're providing strong traceability, and that becomes a really great part of your digital passport, as you noted. And if you have any views from the brand?
No, from our point of view, you know, it's always very important, especially when you produce that not many pieces a year. Let's say from the beginning we produce 50,000, a little bit more watches. For us, it's very important to know that those watches are being taken care of. It's from the get-go, from the very early day of the brand. We did a very good job on the after-sales service to make sure that the parc installé, I don't know how you say that in English, is in good order. So we don't have surprise, because ultimately we know the watches will come back to us, to the service, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, obviously, we as a brand prefer to control the market, which is normal, secondary one and primary one. But it's very, I would say, it's also very important that we make sure that the watches you have to deal with are in proper condition with all the paper. We haven't talked that much about stolen pieces, but make sure that we control that they are not stolen watches. It's all of that. Ultimately, it's a service that we have to offer also to the client. Wherever he buys his watches, again, we would prefer he buy with us, but wherever he buys the watches, he should be feeling safe and have a good condition watch. Sorry.
Hi. Hello. So for me, as a consumer, the technology exactly is not something that raises the question. But when the authentication is being made by humans, that's exactly the scenario which I have a lot of questions, because there could be a human factor. So, and it seems like a little bit like a gray, legally gray area, because I guess, I don't know, and I'm just out of curiosity, I guess it's not a regulated profession. So who are the experts who certify? How are they trained? How are they selected? What is the validity that can practically be given to their opinion? Because again, it's just a personal human opinion. And hence, I guess there could be a margin of error. And do you have any statistics about margin of error? Thank you.
Yeah, no, look, we do have a lot of data, and I'd love to pass it to Stephen very shortly on GIA and what we're doing with them and their experts. But just to talk specifically on the watch side quickly, you know, we partnered up across our global markets in the U.S. with Stolen Company. And Stolen Company, and I know, Mike, you know them really well, Ron Stolen. they're service centers for major brands, right? They have been in the industry for, I can't even admit, like 50 plus years, like decades. Their watchmakers combined have combined expertise of hundreds of years, and they've come from different brands as well. And I believe the human element is critical, right? How do you really know, to that gentleman's question earlier, the movements inside are real? We check, right? We will open bags as needed, and we'll close them as needed, right? But we don't open all of them. It's all based on as needed. We have a multi-point inspection process, right? We check, is it running time correctly, right? Is it in the same condition? Is the warranty card, if it came with it, it matches the watch? There's a multi-point inspection process across all of our processes that we do. I'd love to turn it over to Stephen too, because I know we've also are collaborating on the jewelry front with GIA, and they have phenomenal gemologists and experts on staff that also go through the process for jewelry.
Sure. So before I talk specifically about what we do on the authenticity guarantee, let me just talk a little bit about diamond grading, because that's what we do. So everyone in the trade would love to have a black box that they can put on their desk that you can drop a diamond into and it will spit out the 4 C's, cut, color, clarity, and carat weight. We would love to invent that. We're working on it. It's going to be really, really hard. But when we do it, it'll be right. And it will be exactly what you're looking for. But until we get to that point, we have to rely on well-trained, experienced graders, good processes, and quality control. And so we bring all the experience we have with that to the authenticity guarantee process, examining the pieces of jewelry. So we look at the metal composition. We look at the number of stones, how the stones are described, various other elements of the construction. But all this is based on, and we spent a lot of time figuring this language out, right? Is to make sure, what we're making sure is that the piece matches the seller's description. And you're right, it would probably be better and give people a lot more confidence if a machine did it, but then I'd ask the question, who programmed the machine? Right? So right now, and I hope for many, many years to come, for this particular problem, humans are the right solution.
And I think just to pile in on that, the modern piece, the piece that was made a year or two ago, is easy to get a machine to do and to check against, and microscopes can do all that. But when we're selling a watch that might have been made in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, it's only a human element that can do that. And it comes from generations of knowledge. And, my dad was a watchmaker. I was kind of brought up at the bench, been doing this 40 years. We've got staff all over the world who has that human background. Right. And there's no other way to do it right now. Or I don't know if there'll ever be, because what Patek was making in the 60s or 70s is very different and much more handwork than it was 5 years ago. Right. So unless you have that history, and unfortunately, it's not even in books in a lot of places. It really is with the people who have been dealing with it for decades. So you're always going to have that human element that has to be involved. I mean, we get watches in that some of the kids who have been working there 5 years are like, I've never seen one of those. I'm like, we sold them back in '87. It was one of those things.
Yeah. Sorry, is there any statistics about the margin of error?
The margin of error. So in the 5 years I've been at Watchbox, I'm aware of 2 watches we bought that were counterfeit, out of 16, 17,000 a year over the 5 years. So it's minor, and it was really one of the things was the dial was changed out, and it literally was a watch that we just didn't pay close enough attention to. It was human error because sometimes humans go fast. Yeah. So it'll happen, but it's never, not that I'm aware of, since the 5 years I've been there, has one ever made it onto the site.
Yeah, and if you just leverage machine and computer technologies right now, the margin of error is going to be really high, right? The technologies are not where they should be right now. We absolutely believe in the future, decades from now, artificial intelligence and other technologies will take over. But for now, humans give you the lowest margin of error and allow consumers to get a big, confident product. And that's what all of us are really driving.
No, and that's absolutely right. This is why Origyn needs, when going to the second-hand market, we need what we call in our terminology nodes. So they are people that we can trust because they have their system and processes were human. But by the way, you can exaggerate the point. You buy an Audemars Piguet where the certificate is done from Audemars Piguet in Reluxury. But guess what? And it happened not at Audemars Piguet, but in other groups, where at the last minute they take a picture, they swap the watch, and the watch which goes into the supply chain of the brand is a fake product. It happened in some big groups. And so the human factor exists even in the brand level, but that becomes a bit crazy. But even that could be possible.
I'm going to join you to end this amazing panel and be the woman voice, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
But before I do so, I do have a personal question, because we raise a lot the question of transparency and traceability. But through the angle actually of the product, the sales history or maintenance. But as you are visionaries, do you plan to bring this level of details when it comes to sustainability?
I'll go first. So certainly, particularly in the gem industry, gems are natural resources. They are dug out of the ground somewhere. There is a tremendous and growing consumer interest in traceability. This is something that is a challenge, and I could spend the entire next hour or more talking on the challenges. But it's something that GIA is addressing. We're doing what we can, particularly by being able to determine, scientifically determine the geographic origin of some colored stones. And by putting in place processes, and again, it is a paperwork process, not necessarily a scientific one, to trace the origin of diamonds and make that information available to consumers.
Thank you very much. So it was an amazing panel, and I just would like to summarize these great talks with, some highlights that you shared. Alexandre, you emphasized the fact that it's very important to have a close and personal relationship with your clients. You want to know them, and the way that you fight against counterfeiting is the fact that your design are really distinctive and truly technical. So it's a way to fight against counterfeiting, because this is not easy to counterfeit your product. Nevertheless, if it happens, your solution and what you emphasize is the fact that it's really important to educate and empower the clients, giving them, in fact, more knowledge, more information, and be able to avoid to be fooled by knowing more about the watch industry. And in that space, media are really important. For you, Stefan, as well at Watchbox, you are known by building very close relationship with your clients. You offer watches online, but the connection is real, and it's very important for you to build that trust thanks to this personal communication. You also raise the fact that you run deep authentication process, and I've been there, so I know. It's really impressive, and it's really a way, because your watchmaker are truly, expert, and they are, not only aware, but they have the true knowledge to identify real from, fake from the real. So you also emphasize the fact that, as a customer standpoint, the best way also to be protected is to go and buy luxury products on renowned and trustworthy platform. And it's also, one of the easiest way to avoid to be fooled by counterfeit products. Origyn Foundation, you emphasize the fact that technology is a true answer against counterfeiting. You leverage the Web3 technology. You deliver utility NFT, and to make sure that all this data is protected and secure. You use and leverage blockchain technology, so you are able to bring traceability and transparency through your NFT. This solution will definitely solve counterfeit issues, and it's only thanks to a combination of technology, and that's the reason why everything is currently evolving, because the different technologies are evolving at the same time. And I will finish this summary by highlighting the amazing work done by Tirath during the last years for the luxury division at eBay. eBay has developed a tremendous platform embedding many digital and tech innovation and a massive infrastructure with a lot of watchmakers, if we only talk about watches, to offer the best experience to their end consumer, making sure they stay away from the counterfeiting for the luxury goods, because it's not only watches, you can also find a lot of other luxury goods on the eBay platform. And you highlighted the fact that it's not only about technology, but the importance of data to be able to track the journey, to track and improve constantly. And it's also, and that will be the last word of this panel, truly important to build trust by providing transparency and traceability. Thanks a lot, thanks a lot, thanks a lot also to you, Logan, for this amazing panel. We will continue this amazing journey talking about fashion and how we can help end consumer to choose better and more sustainable fashion brands when they want to do shopping. So, hope you will stay around. Thanks.